with teaching you how to make a trap. And the secret about traps is that most of them are very, very, very similar. Would it be a computer trap, or a fall trap, or a rope trap, or a pie trap? Um, really, you only have four main parts to a trap, and they're all very important parts, and I'm going to walk you through all of them. I hope that you use your trapping to good use, and may those who are your victims have some mercy. So here is the one and only intro. Now, the thing about the intro is that it's one thing that can really be very influential in the making of a trap. What you need in the intro is that you really want to make sure that the victim has no idea what's going to happen. So the intro is really the first viewing of the trap. You want to be sure that however the trap is triggered, you want to be sure, is the victim going to walk through the door? Is the victim going to step on that plate? You got to be certain that A, it's going to happen, and B, most importantly, the victim has no idea that it's going to happen. And you want to really make sure that your trap is small, hidden, and concise, kind of. You really want to make sure that that the victim can be surprised as possible. And the next step is the act. The act is basically the trigger. And in this case, in the case of an Annie's classroom trap, it is the door opening. And what we really need in this sort of situation is that the act is so important because you want to be 100% certain that there's no chance that they are not going to activate it. Because if they don't, it can really, it's kind of a letdown. I mean, it gives you this incredibly faulty trap. And what you really want from a trap is A, to make sure that they activate it, and B, to make sure that it is fast. Because if you have a trap that takes 20 seconds, they step out of the way, they're scared, they laugh, it doesn't matter, but it ruins the whole surprise of a trap, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it funny. And that is why you need to make the act perfect. So the next step is the transition. Now that sounds like the most boring part, but it's not. It's complicated, and when you jury rig your trap, like basically all traps are, you really need to, you have to put a lot of effort into the transition. So the thing about the transition is you want to make sure that you know exactly how much force is going everywhere. So in this situation, the bucket is being released because there is less tension in the rope. And what you can see is that if you were to have a trap where it was entirely based off of the force from the door opening, you would have no idea how long it would take for the door to open, or how much force it would take, how much force they would do, how much time it would take. It just isn't very effective. What you really want is you want to have it based off of a potential amount of energy, because you know, A, how strong that's going to be, and most importantly, the physics of it you have down in your mind. You know the amount of time, you know, and normally it's generally a lot faster, and you know the amount of energy it's going to take, and that is key, because you want to know your trap before you build it. It's much worse if you have a trap that's just sort of random, you just hope it works. So the real reason that we use a release is because we have a lot of potential energy if we use our spring or we use our gravity. And the reason that we want to release this potential energy is because a release is super easy to do. If you have a push, you can translate it into a release. If you have a pull, you can translate it into a release. All you need is a pulley, some rope, or some rope sometimes, or some tape, or some wire. Or the true thing about a trap is that you really never know what you're going to be working with. But what you really want to do with almost all your traps is to make sure it's a release. Because if it's not, there's so many extra variables that go in with how it's triggered, and you have no idea how it's going to work. And that's why you always, always, always want to use a release. The act. Now this is the cool part. This is the most varying and interesting part of the trap. This is where you get to spring whatever you want to on them. In this situation, I would say I'm letting the bucket go and is releasing a load of ping pong balls onto their head, because ping pong balls are generally fun to release. Now, what you really need to understand about your act is that you want to be fairly certain that it hits them quickly, because if you end up, dropping some sort of ooze on them, which, would probably work if it's in the bucket correctly, if you do it wrong, it's gonna just kind of slide onto their head. And you want to be certain it's all going down at once, because you want to make sure that all of this needs to happen within seconds, or else it's just not a very good trap. But that said, have as much fun with your act as you possibly can, because it is, after all, the cool part. So remember, have a concise trap, have a hidden trap, and be sure to prank as many people as you can with this info, if it helped you at all. Thank you.